Hey, everybody. Here's a quick word about our sponsors. First one being Laser App. You can find them at www.lasrapp.com. They're a laser activated shot reporter. They're amazing what it can do, all of the things that you can do with it, multiple guns, multiple locations, any type of target. They have a smorgasbord of items on their website store. Check them out. Use the affiliate link below or on our website, casualshooterpodcast.com, and use the code CSP 2021 for up to 15% off items not covered by the affiliate link. Next up, we have Gun Butter. I am one of those people that I clean my gun all the time because I feel like you've always got to clean the crud and put a fresh coat of lubrication on it. That's because of the stuff we had to use in the military. I didn't like it, but I have finally landed on something I can get behind, and that is gun butter. I did not shoot. I'm. I did not clean my gun at all at nationals. I did not clean it after the match before nationals, nor the match before that. And there's still gun butter oil on my gun. And I'm going to be using their grease on the lugs of my bolt gun. Next, we have Hoist. It is IV level hydration. It's clinically proven to absorb 110% faster than water. You've got all the right ingredients of your electrolytes that you need: magnesium, calcium, sodium, potassium. It's all in there. A little bit of sugar, but that mixes the right amount to make it absorb rapidly so it's not sitting in your belly and weighing you down. So check it out. Get hydrated, stay hydrated. And thanks for checking out our sponsors. It helps with the podcast. Welcome to this week's edition of the Casual Shooters Podcast, your premier podcast for the casual shooter. This week's guest comes yet again from Carry Optics Nationals. He's young, he's aggressive, and he's accurate. He placed fourth behind only Nils, JJ, and Max. Let's welcome Brantley Merriam to the show. How you doing, Brantley?
Me on.
Oh, thanks for being on. I appreciate it. Why don't you go ahead and take a second and introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. So I'm Brantley Merriam. Kind of got into shooting, just kind of grew up around guns, always just going out into the backyard and shoot things off logs, cans, trash, bottles, and started concealed carrying whenever I turned about 18 and really was like, hey, how do I get more proficient with the firearm that I'm carrying? And that's kind of how I found practical shooting, watching tons and tons of YouTube videos and stuff like that. And I was like, man, them guys running around, that looks heck of a lot of fun. I gotta figure out how to do that. Started competing, I think whenever I was 20, 21, something around there. And I mean, after my first match, I was bit by the bug. I couldn't stop. It was consumed a lot of portions of just time and effort and energy to continue to get better at the sport that I enjoyed. And yeah, it's been a fun experience ever since then, for sure.
You know, I feel like if more people shoot a match and get hooked and Fauci hears about it, he's going to try to come up with a vaccine to fix it. So we can't let those guys know. Yeah, those DC people, they're not going to like it. So we can't let them know.
If you could, yeah, I got a lot of buddies who'll come to the range with me and kind of just like practice a little bit with me. But if you can ever get somebody to come and shoot a match, they're normally hooked. That's kind of the key to it. If you can get them to shoot, you got them.
Yeah, it's easy. Now, I got to ask you, I don't know. I know you shot with Isaac on the Super Squad. I don't know if you heard his interview on the podcast, but it was hysterical. He said he was watching those videos. He was like, there's no way they're aiming. There's no way they're aiming at anything. They're just shooting.
Yep. That sounds about right.
Yeah. And now you look at his bill drill from Carry Optics National. It's like, dude, did you even look down your sights or did you just point the gun? Because that was crazy fast.
Exactly. I guarantee you he did not see his dot until like the third or fourth shot. I mean, he's just point shooting at that point. But yeah, 1.23 seconds. Was it 1.24 or something? That's
1-2-3. Yeah, you were
ridiculous.
right. 1-2-3.
Like, that's like,
Yeah.
like that's like human like level of like muscle like movement quick. Very, very impressed for sure.
Yeah, it sounded like machine gun fire. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah, I was like, are you sure you're not like bump firing that pistol? Like come on.
Yeah, don't let the ATF know. You got something illegal in there.
Exactly. Just don't look at a sear cage.
So I like to start with some icebreaker questions, kind of get to know you. If you've heard Isaac's, then you know what I'm going to be asking. So what's your favorite movie?
I would have to say it's two movies. I can't like decide on like one specific thing on any of the categories, so I kind of go with two. But it would have to be The Last Samurai and Saving Private Ryan. Those two movies I grew up watching on repeat over and over and over again, and just kind of fell in love with just that type of genre kind of thing.
Now, The Last Samurai, was that the one with Tom Cruise, or is that a different one?
Yes, sir. It's Tom Cruise.
Okay.
Like early Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Okay. And it's funny you say Saving Private Ryan, because early 2000s, my ex-wife and I had moved into a new house we had built, and we had bought a big, I forget, I think it was at the time it was a 65-inch big screen, high def. That was when 1080p first came. I mean, 1080p was the big thing. And I was like, the first movie I'm watching on there is Saving Private Ryan. So that was the very first movie I watched on a big screen TV.
Get you some of the surround sound. You feel like you're strolling on the beach with them.
Yep, exactly. And I had that all hooked up, so it was loud and it was awesome. So two very good choices.
Thank you.
All right. Now this next question, guys tend to fall into one of two categories. Either they don't read books at all, or they read 100 books. So what's your favorite book if you read?
I will be in the middle of that category.
Okay.
We
found some middle road.
Single book. Heck yeah. I barely read anything through high school. I didn't start reading books until like college and whenever I got married, where I was like, hey, it's kind of nice to learn stuff, because you can either learn from your own experiences or learn from the experiences of others, and it's a whole lot easier that way. But my two favorite books would have to be Love and Respect and Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Okay. All right. Now, what's the Love and Respect? What is that?
So it's more of like a marriage relationship book. Where, I forgot what scripture it is, but it's like it's husbands respect your wives, or husbands love your wives, and wives respect your husbands, and just kind of that dichotomy of how you can help your spouse and your partner. Very, very good book. If you're in a relationship, definitely read that book. And also, if you're like a guy or a woman who wants to kind of push their own envelope a little bit and kind of have some more personal responsibility, read Extreme Ownership. Very, very two good books.
I like it. So what did you have a bachelor's or associates? What do you have?
So I'm currently on track to get my associates for drafting.
Ooh, okay. Some mechanical drawing.
Yes, sir. Yep. Done a little part-time stuff with it, and just really enjoyed it. I kind of like doing the engineering from a kid, but drawings, 3D modeling, all that stuff is a lot of fun.
Cool. Here's a quick backstory. Let's tell you how old I am. There used to be a program called WordPerfect. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It was basically The precursor, it was, I know the company, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, the precursor to like Microsoft Word. I actually
Mhm.
created a user handbook for the Leopold Mark IV M1 scope back in the day because it was the first like hardy tactical scope with tall turrets on it. But there was no real drawings. And at the time, I was teaching long range stuff. So
Okay.
I was able to recreate. I took measurements on that scope in millimeters, and I was able to recreate that entire scope, everything about it in Word Perfect by using the up and down arrows on the keyboard, and
Oh, gosh.
each each tap would equate to 1 millimeter. So I was it took a while, but it was pretty cool.
I
So
bet so.
I like that you're doing drafting because I think that's cool.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that would be a not very user friendly software, I'm guessing.
No, and then I was going to do some more, but then there was an update to their software, and you couldn't use the arrow key, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So you couldn't control it with a mouse the way you could with the arrow key. So I'm like, well, now I'm screwed. So that
Hmm.
ended that. All right.
Sometimes how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes those updates aren't as good as you'd like.
True.
Now, now your the next question comes by way of one of the other hosts on the show who's not here, which is who's your favorite superhero? And if you're not into that, because I really am not, then who would be your favorite historical figure? So you have options.
I'll go with the superhero. I'll
Okay.
go Spider-Man probably, um, just because he gets to like shoot webs out of his arms and crawl up the sides of buildings and swing. I mean, that's just cool for sure.
Yeah, he never has to worry about being bit by a spider anymore. That's for sure.
Heck yeah.
All right. Now the next question. The answers don't have to be married. So the question is, what's your favorite gun and caliber? But you could be a pistol guy who likes a rifle caliber, or you could be a rifle guy, but his favorite caliber is 9 millimeter. So it's whatever.
I would go favorite gun would be a lever action Marlin 3030 that my grandfather gave me. Um,
Wow.
that's
Okay.
the best hunting rifle you could like. It's super soft shooting, a big enough bullet to take down the whitetail around here, um, and just historical and kind of sentimental. But favorite caliber, I think I'd probably just go 9 mil. Um, just you can plink with it, you can compete with it, you can carry it. It's kind of a relatively broad category. So many different rounds you can use that it kind of encompasses a lot.
Okay. I'm going to guess it's going to be a 124 grain 9 millimeter round.
Uh, yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't mind. I don't mind shooting the 115s, 124s, 147s. They all. I don't. I can't tell too much of a difference if I shoot any of them. They're all kind of just similar to me.
Now that brings up a good point. So I'm going to detour right here for a second because recently, I'll say within since springtime, I guess I'll say it that way. Like Hwanzik has felt that the 140, he started shooting 147s this year. He feels like there's a difference. And I just interviewed June Kim yesterday, and he is shooting a 147, and he feels like there's a definite difference between the 147 and the 124s. So I'm just curious. You're not seeing any
And
difference at
like
all, huh?
I probably don't have enough rounds to notice compared to those guys. They probably shoot a whole lot more than me. But I could. I don't know. I think it's just preference, honestly. If you're
Okay.
really in tune with your recoil or if your grip, it's just preference. I think. Would
Yeah.
they? Do they say it's a little bit softer or just like slower to
Yeah.
return to zero?
Yeah, I think I know for sure June, when we were talking yesterday, was saying that the recoil management is much simpler, much easier because you don't get as much muzzle flip.
Gotcha. I could see that. I'll have to test it, shoot them back to back. That's I've never like shot them back to back. It's always like one range trip is all of this ammo, or the next range trip is all of that ammo. It just kind of depends.
Okay. Yeah, he even went on to say that, now this is with the coated bullets, where he can
Mm-hmm.
actually drop the powder by 2/10 of a grain. So he can reduce the charge by 0.2 and still easily make power factor, and the recoil management is much nicer.
Heck yeah, definitely. If it works for you, and you're still making power factor, and it makes your gun reliable, then I would say go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so your accent gives away the fact that you sound like you're in the South, Brantley.
Yes, sir. Born and raised in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, kind of like in the Cottondale area, but been here my whole life for sure.
Okay. Now, where I'm leading this into is, I'm sure you've been tracking the progress of the hurricane. Are you in the path of the hurricane, or?
So I have not been tracking it at all, and this will be the first time I'm hearing about it. But no, sir.
Oh,
Uh, Hurricanes normally don't get too bad up here. We might get like a day or two of rain, but it's not like crazy
okay.
winds or something like that. We have to just watch
It,
out for tornadoes.
yeah, yeah, that's always a problem with the hurricanes. So, are you in the upper half then of Alabama?
Yes, sir. I'm like in the central north portion, maybe an hour and a half from the top of it. But
Oh,
mainly
okay.
central.
Okay.
Yeah. If you know where
Now,
Birmingham is, I'm like southwest from Birmingham.
so did you just commute to CMP every day, or did you stay closer?
Um, no, me and the wife got a hotel. I didn't want to
Okay.
drive in 2 hours every day twice, so I was like, I'll just get a hotel.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be bad on Friday and Sunday, but that Saturday getting up an extra 2 hours early in the morning, that wouldn't be any fun.
Heck, yeah. If I go shoot locals out there, I'll drive up the day before or the day of, and then I'll just eat it. But for that prolonged like 4 day, because you're getting there a day early to walk stages, then you have the 3 days of competition, and then the awards that night. So you're going to be a late night that way. So you might as well just spend an extra night, drive home Monday. So by the time it is, it's kind of worth it with all the gas money you're going to spend and all the time away from home.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense. Now, from what I can tell from your Instagram page, it looks like you are running a CZ Shadow 2.
Yes, sir. Yep. I switched over to Shadows just about a year and a half ago. I was running Glock 34s, or just one Glock 34 before that. Had a buddy who shot some SPO1s and Shadows, and I tried it out one range trip, and I was like, man, that single stage trigger is super nice compared to the bushy Glock. So I was like, let's give that a shot. I borrowed his gun for a week to just dry fire it, with the intention of shooting it during a match, and I fell in love with it so much during that week of dry fire. I immediately went and bought me one and shot my own gun before the next match, just because I was like, this is good. I like the weight of it. So some people say like it's too heavy to transition targets. I haven't really found that. You still need good fundamentals, but it hides your poor fundamentals sometimes. So in
Hmm.
competition, you kind of want to get as much help as you can get. Um, so I like the heavy gun.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you see all the guys who are not shooting metal guns put, brass back straps and other stuff on their gun, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm sure there's a point where it
Mm,
gets ridiculously heavy, but
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. I think I'm because I have a cut on the top of my slide, so I'm still even lighter than a full weight shadow. That's just the way I bought the
Okay.
gun. It came with a cut in it. But
So
but I mean,
so do
if you
you
like plastic guns, it's kind of just preference.
Yeah, I agree. It is. So I don't know if you can see it, but I am sharing the picture you had on Instagram of your Shadow 2, and it looks like you added a paddle thumb mag release to it.
Um, I
Or did it
think I'm not sure if that's factory or not. I bought the gun with it, but I think it is
Okay.
it's the lock mag release. I think.
Okay.
Um, Pretty sure, but it's been good. No issues with that. I have noticed sometimes with a loaded table or a loaded barrel start, if I push down a little too hard or in the wrong spot of the gun, I'll actually unseat my mag whenever I grab it. So I kind of have to pick it up from the slide so I don't push it down too hard and kind of drop the mag as soon as I pick up the gun.
Gotcha. Now, is that the 124 grain you're using there, the flat nose?
Yes, sir. Yep, that's the 124 grain Rubens reloading. One of my sponsors. Been shooting those for just about a year. Great bullets coated, the high tech coating. He actually just changed his formula to a new makeup to make it less smoky when you're shooting it.
Okay. Does he make his own coating then?
I believe so. He's out
Interesting.
from like in Oklahoma. He's a great guy out there for some bullets for sure.
Okay. Now, is there any particular reason you shoot flat nose versus round nose, or is that just the way those came?
Just the way those came. I've shot blue bullets, kind of the truncated. I've shot black bullets, the round nose. I've shot these kind of the flat nose. It's just preference. I haven't seen an accuracy shift in any of them. I just have to change my overall length sometimes to make sure they feed good in my CZ.
Okay. So the next part I want to go into is the national champion questionnaire. So we
Oh
have
gosh.
learned through this podcast that there's three tendencies for national champs to have. So I'm going to start with, how tall are you?
I am 6'1".
All right. So you're 5'13". So you meet requirement number one. You got to be at least 5 feet 13. Did you grow up
Just
on a
scraped it
farm?
by. I did not.
Okay, but you said you would go outside and shoot. So what did you have property that you went out and
Uh,
shot on then?
yes, sir. We have family land, about 40 acres that is bordered to our hunting lease, which is I think 500 or 600 acres, and so I could always go out there any time of year and shoot or walk around in the woods or do whatever.
Okay. And were you homeschooled?
Yes, sir. I was the
All right.
entire high school from beginning to end.
Okay. That's at least a 2.5 out of 3, if not 3. So you have a bright future in shooting ahead of you.
Well, thank you.
That's our non-scientific study that we have
Hey,
determined.
it's either a correlation or a causation. You don't know which one.
There you go. All right. So when I know you've been shooting guns your whole life, do you know when the first time was you shot a gun?
Oh, probably not. I uh, I have memories of from when I was 4 or 5 years old, laying down on a trampoline, waiting to snipe birds off the fence with a BB gun,
Okay.
and then
I like it.
growing up, getting a pellet gun, shooting squirrels, shooting doves, um, shooting 22s. I mean, kind of anything. So I couldn't say like a first time I actually had like an actual firearm, but I always been around guns.
Okay. And you never shot your eye out. That's good.
I did not. Never. I'm trying to think. I don't think I ever shot myself with a BB gun or anything like that. So I've been good so far. We're gonna keep up the streak.
Yeah, I like it. Gonna go undefeated your entire life.
Heck yeah, that's the plan.
Now, you were saying you shot, I wrote it down. So if you see me looking down and doing something, that's just me writing notes to remind me to ask you stuff later. My
Get you.
next question was, how did you find the USPSA? And you said, I know that you mentioned you watched a bunch of YouTube videos and you said you shot your first competition about 21. But what made you, how did you start, or why did you start looking at the YouTube videos of like practical shooting stuff? And then what was finally the trigger that was like, I'm doing this?
So my whole family kind of, as like an evening thing, we would watch a show called NCIS. And on that show, all the special agents carried a SIG 226, I think. And I was like, well, that's so cool. Like, I want to be able to shoot like those guys, because they were completely fictional shooting, and they would like rack off rounds and be stacked on top of each other. And so I saved up some money and put money towards my dad buying a 229, and that was kind of the first. That was the first pistol I ever purchased, or was mine basically, and that was about, I think, 14 or 15. And then just kind of practicing with that every so often. Was like, hey, I want to start carrying whenever I turn 18, which is the legal limit in Alabama. You can't purchase a firearm and you can't purchase ammo until you're 21, but you can carry a pistol at 18. So it kind of like makes you have a older adult figure kind of help you out in that. So I got a Smith & Wesson Shield for Christmas, the year I turned 18. Started carrying that. My parents were like, hey, look, you're going to carry the gun. Why don't you get some training, do some, take a class, do some training, watch videos kind of thing. And I kind of just dove into the video aspect of it, switched over, and wanted to get a little bit a bigger carry gun than a Shield. So I think I got the SIG 320 RX at the time, had a red dot on it, and was like, man, I love this red dot. Like, that was the ticket. That was the like grasp. It was like, I'm never shooting irons again. Like, I am gonna stay with the dots once I found that one. And it was shot that for a while, switched over to the Glocks, and it was just about at that transition from SIG to Glock where I was watching all kinds of videos from all the tactical guys to all the competition guys, and everything in between of videos, and kind of got onto the practical shooting, as well as like growing up, I was watching Top Shot. I watched every single season of Top Shot there was, just because that was so cool. So seeing JJ and Blake, and all the other shooters on there, Mike Seaclander was kind of on the early ones, but I think he was on there. But anyway, so kind of always knowing that you could do that, and then watching the videos of like people actually competing in it and having like big matches really caught my attention, and definitely wanted to try it.
Okay. Now, were there any YouTube video individuals that you preferred, or?
I think just everybody. I think I would literally watch like every episode. I would watch TRX Arms, Ben Steger's Practical Shooting Group. I think I would watch Tactical Rifleman, Warrior Poet. Oh gosh, there's other ones.
Just anything and everything.
Grand Thumb. I mean, I would watch reviews. I would watch actual shooting. I would watch practical shooting. I would watch tactical shooting. Surefire put out a bunch of videos. Chris Costa. I mean, everybody.
Wow.
And that would be rifle and pistol.
Okay. So did that ever drive you to want to shoot IDPA? The tactical stuff?
Not really. I think I did more research and like forums and stuff like that. And I was like, what's the best one to get into? And everybody was saying USPSA, because they were like, oh, IDPA is a little bit slower and USPSA is like all the fast pace. And I was like, I want the fast pace. I don't want the slow stuff. Like, give me the full juice, fast stuff.
Yeah, looking at your videos from Optics Nationals, I can see why. You definitely like to go fast. So we're going to back up for just a second. You watched NCIS. What genre of music do you listen to?
Yes. It depends on the day.
Okay. All right.
I'll listen to. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say because the theme for NCIS is borrowed from the greatest rock band in the history of the world,
Oh,
The Who.
I did not know that. The Who.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Um, that's cool. Yeah, me and my wife actually just started watching NCIS again, and the first time the theme song played, I was like, "Oh, this brings back so many good memories." But I'll listen to anything. I'll listen to like old school country, a little bit of the new country, pop, hip hop, rock, old school rock, rap. I mean, just everything. It just depends on the mood. I have like a dozen playlists on my phone that I just pick.
Wow. Yeah, I have one playlist. It's called The Who, and I put some other songs in there just to give me a little bit of variety. But yeah, it's all The Who. But it's all good. Doesn't matter. All
Okay.
right. Now, you said you are married, so obviously your wife is supportive of this addiction.
Gosh, yes.
Okay.
Basically, yes or no. She's been everything but support, like nothing but supportive. She's been from the beginning super super sweet, always pushing me to go shoot more matches and train and practice. And like that helps you because you're like, okay, I want to go practice, but also like you're being so sweet. Whenever I do come back, like I want to spend more time. I'll put down the guns and I'll go watch a movie with you or hang out with you, or even she'll come and practice with me sometimes, and so on and so forth. But she's
Oh,
great.
cool.
She's pretty sweet. I lucked out with her.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it would make it, and I bring that up because one of the other guest hosts, 2 years ago, we all went to nationals together, and they had just had their second child, and I don't think he shot a single match since then. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, his children have really hampered his shooting ability. So they
Yeah.
can
If you're, I
it,
mean,
it
if you're having a full time job and shooting with kids, like there's not a lot of time to go around. You know, you're kind of just fighting for all the extra time.
absolutely. Now, you did you did you shoot any other divisions in USPSA before you found the dot?
So the first match I ever shot was a production match with my grandfather's Gen 2 Glock 17 with I think a Blackhawk Circle holster, some S-Tac Kiwi mag pouches, and that was the first match ever. Um, I shot that one, and I was like, I gotta keep playing this game. I shot maybe 3 or 4 matches in production, and wasn't doing too hot. I was just kind of in the middle range of classification. And at the time, I was carrying a dot, but I was competing with iron. So I was like, well, why don't I just shoot the dot and the gun that I carry? And that was a Glock 19 MOS with the RMR. And first match shot carry optics and won my local match. Completely surprised. Did not think that was going to happen at all. And that was definitely the ticket. I was like, I like the dot more than irons. I could target focus a lot more. I was more accurate. I could go a little faster. And that was first carry optics match was January of 2020. Didn't get classified until about July. Hopped in as B class just because COVID and like I only shot one match a month, and so it took me like 6 months because I took like 1 or 2 months off to get my initial 4 classifications. Hopped in as B class, and 9 months after that, made GM.
9 months from B to GM.
Yes, sir. That was countless hours of dry fire.
Well, that almost sounds illegal.
It's free.
So when you, it is. Now you say countless hours of dry fire. Like how much time a day were you spending dry firing?
It would be anywhere from about 45 to an hour and a half. If I felt like I wanted to go long that day, I would go an hour and a half. If I was like, hey, I just kind of want to get this over with, I would be about 45. And that was about every to every other day for that period for sure. And I was working stuff from the draw, from sight pictures to trigger presses, movement, entries, exits, transitions, throttle control. I mean, a little bit of everything.
Okay, so let's say there are some people in the audience who hear this and they're like, "Holy cow, that's crazy." Um, if you, if someone was like, "Hey, how can I get from B to master or GM in a year?" What is there anything in particular? Is it just all of the fundamentals I should be practicing in dry fire, or do I need to add some other more intricate elements to that?
I think to get to about A class, you need just how to run your gun. So how to be in a stationary position and shoot your gun with good fundamentals of sights and grip. Um, and then trigger control is kind of like a subcategory of grip.
Okay.
And so on and so forth. To get to master, I think you need to be able to move well, be efficient in your entries and exits. And then grandmaster, you need to do all of those, but have a little bit of mental. Um, that's kind of my philosophy on how to get to the categories, because that was my progression. Jumped to A class pretty easy, and then M class was working on the movement a lot, and stayed in M class for several months. I think 4 or 5 of those months I was in M class, and it wasn't
That's
until I unlocked or started working on the mental that I actually finally made GM.
okay. Well, that's still not very long in M class, but I get it. Yeah. Half your time was spent in M class coming up from B. So that's still super fast.
Just
But now, do you still do that much dry fire now?
um, not that much. Now it's probably 20 to 45-minute dry fire sessions every other day.
All right. So has your live fire picked up?
A little bit. The first year was, I mean, maybe 2,000 rounds the entire year of practice ammo. Um, I think this year I bumped it up to about 6,000 rounds of practice. And just, I'll try to go one match and one practice a month, and then like a 500 round practice. And then leading up to a major match, I'll go every week for maybe a month. And leading up to nationals, I'll go every week for 2 months, or however that swings.
Okay. So you do ramp it up heading into nationals.
Yes, sir. Not so much for like I want to build skill right before nationals or a major. It's more of like the, I don't know, three weeks out of the month is building skill, but that last week before a nationals or a major is really just going up to the range and getting the confidence. Because I mean, you want to go into a match with confidence. You don't want to have an absolutely atrocious and super hard practice right before nationals and come in with like zero confidence. You kind of want to make it a little bit of an easier practice because you've already worked all the hard stuff before then, you know. And that's kind
Right.
of you work all the hard stuff early, and then at the very last end you work something easy to build your confidence up so that you can go in and shoot well.
I almost feel like that last week would just be zen with your gun.
Yep, it's a
Yeah.
lot more not really looking at the timer. You'll use it for your initiation, kind of like your start buzzer, but other than that it's just kind of, if it feels efficient, then that's all you want, you know. Like if you say, okay, that was atrocious, like I can just feel that was slow, um, then do it until it just, okay, that feels like it was decent, and then you're good.
Okay. Did you take advantage of the pistol range that was open for zeroing and function checking at nationals?
I did not. I was kind of
Oh,
disappointed because last year they had an open range or an open bay where it was like you could warm up bay, so you could go
mhm.
and shoot a couple mags in, kind of get your draws down. But this year it was only a sight in and function test, so there was no drawing from the holsters, no reloading, and I was like, I really don't have any need for or need or want to do that. So I refrained.
Okay. I went there on Thursday because I drove from Virginia down to Talladega, so I got in Wednesday evening, and then uh, I walked all the stages Thursday. I was the first person in line to check in, but I did go to the range, and it was nice just to be able to put rounds down range and ensure that even though I was confident my zero was there, I was like, well, you know what? This is the first time I've had really the opportunity to do it. So I went over there and they
Heck
had
yeah.
some steel and I just picked a spot and I'm like, man, this thing's hammering. So if I screw up the next 3 days, it's on me. It's not the gun.
I get you. I get you. Like if you're traveling distance, several hours of driving or a flight, like I 100% agree with that. Like you want to function test it. And I kind of function tested at my range on Wednesday, and then drove up on Thursday. So I kind of already had that practice, and I wasn't gonna bump my gun on the drive up there. So I was pretty confident, everything was gonna stay good.
So did you partake in this a little bit of a side detour again, but did you partake in the side match bill drill?
I did. I threw $20 at it because it was
Okay.
just fun to give it a shot. I didn't do good at all. I think I made like a 1.7 or a 1.8 with a Charlie. Um, so it is what it is. My personal record of like best ever is like a 1.6, and so I knew I could not compete with those guys who were dropping 1.3s and 1.4s. So, but I was like, hey, I'll give it a shot. It'll be fun.
Okay. So it didn't take you out of your match focus. It was just something you went over. Ah, this is fun, and that was it.
Yep, it was the last thing we did on day two. I think we
Okay.
shot in the morning, so like I had all that day, and so like after we got done shooting zone one, zone A, so one
Yeah. So
through six, we went and did
yep.
that, and it was fun. And shot the Beretta little steel challenge thing. First time ever shooting a performance 92. Big difference, but it was fun just to kind of end the day on like a fun note because sometimes you gotta relax and not just take everything so serious at a match because you will burn yourself out real quick.
Well, and I had this conversation with June yesterday, so it'll be coming out. But for the Super Squad, for you guys, and even for me, we ended up on the last stage of that zone for both of us was stage 6, whereas a lot of these guys and women that zone 6 was not their last stage. So they had the vendor bay thrown in their shooting mix. So they would have to wait 15 or 20 minutes before they could get to another bay to shoot. And I feel like when I'm shooting, I like the way I shot where it was the first stage of the zone and I finished up on the last stage of the zone. So you kind of get in that rhythm. You shoot, you
Mhm.
go to the next bay, you shoot. Whereas they would shoot, go to the next bay, shoot, go to the vendor bay. All right, now we have a 15, 20-minute downtime, then go down to stage 1, go back through the whole process. I feel like that's a little more difficult.
It would be tougher to keep your mind in it for sure. Throughout that process, you kind of actually maybe even want to like take a break and go do something fun, and then before you shoot the next stage, kind of come back, re-zero, take time for yourself, and like get back into the analytical and the shooting mindset. Because a lot of this game is mental for sure.
Well, and
But
and I
but June's a
agree
good
with. Do you ever listen to Steve Anderson?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, he was one of the first books that I got for shooting.
Okay. I totally agree with him, where he says, the higher your classification, the more mental the game becomes. And I agree because
Gosh,
I
yes.
mean, I mean, at this point, what's Brantley Merriam really have to learn? I mean, sure, you're still going to keep learning stuff, but
Mhm.
you've learned, and I'll just put it in relation to your classification. You've learned 90+% of what there is about shooting. Now managing that and being consistent mentally to
Hmm.
be able to finish where you finished. So for you guys, it's
Definitely.
way mental.
Heck yeah. I mean, I'm still learning stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
you're relearning other stuff. Like I'm just in the past 6 to 8 months, I've kind of started working on like predictive shooting. So like how Ben Staker says it, like I'm seeing one, I'm staring at the target, I'm seeing a spot I want to shoot, and I'm throwing two at it. And because you trust your grip and your trigger control and your sights, and also you've practiced this in practice multiple times, you know that during a match, those two shots are going to be next to each other. You know, you're kind of seeing the dot in recoil and lifting, but you're not making the conscious decision after the first one to send another one. So that's definitely been one of the big things that I've been playing with, and just overall grip pressures and just trying to making the gun shoot. Um, I wouldn't say flatter, but just more consistent. So it's coming back to the same spot every time. And then the mental game is just the consistency. Because in the beginning, and I mean, I still do it sometimes because I'm a fast shooter. I want to go as fast as I can, and I want to burn down the stage and do great. But then also, like, I'll have a 100% stage win, and then I'll like drop down to like 40th percent because I threw two mics on a stage. And so I'd rather be running at my 90% performance every single stage than having like 100% performance and then a 50% performance and then 100% performance and a 50% performance. It's just that consistency that is
Right.
really
Yeah.
helpful. And I mean, if you look at it, major matches, you don't have to win a single stage to win the match. You just shoot 95% of every single stage and you win.
You're right. Yeah. So I mean, that's what Nils did this year. I mean, he did have a couple of stage wins, but he wasn't.
He won
He
two
didn't.
stages.
Yeah. Right. 2 out of 19.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I mean,
you like
Niels is
it.
super, super consistent
Very
for sure.
consistent
He's not going to
shooter.
be the fastest. He's not going to be the fastest man out there. Like you can raw time him on several stages. However, you also cannot beat his accuracy. Like he is super, super accurate. He's very
Yeah.
precise. He'll get those alphas efficiently. It's not fast, but it's very efficient. You know, he makes very, very few mistakes. He's consistent in that, and I mean, he's a great shooter for sure.
Yeah.
He's already done great things, and he'll continue to do great things.
Yeah, for sure. Now I want to back up a little bit because you said a few things. I actually wrote it down earlier. You mentioned that when you switched to the dot, you were like, "Oh, I can target focus much better." Were you target focusing the moment you picked up a red dot, or did you learn that somewhere, or did you just pick that up on your own?
Yes and no. I think I had moments where I would truly dot or target focus. Sometimes, other times I would be watching that dot very, very hard, and kind of in the last year and a half, year ish, I've really, really transitioned to like just the dot is in your peripheral as you're staring at the spot on the target you want to go, you know? And then because you have the index that you've created in dry fire, your gun goes there every time, every time.
Okay. Now, what size dot do you have in your SRO? Is it a 2.5 or a 5?
Two and a half. I like
Okay.
the smaller, crisper dots. Um, just just preference. Some guys run it and they're great at it, and they're running the five. I mean, you have some SIG dots that are running 6 MOAs, so it's just preference.
Right. Um, so you mentioned practical shooting training group and stuff. I know that Juanzik is big on tracking the A zone. Do you practice any of that, or do you already do it?
Yeah. Um, I didn't. So starting out, I really didn't do a lot of barricade or wall work just because I didn't have that at my range. Um, but recently, I was doing a lot of the tracking the A zone, kind of like the four targets with the two barrels, and kind of you go in between them and stuff like that, bar hop, stuff like that. And that's an eye opener to see like how crappy I did in those. The first times I ran in practice, I was like, holy crap, that's a really hard drill to perform correctly. Um, And so like I immediately knew, okay, this is what I'm going to be practicing from here on out until I can master it, because this is a big step I can improve my own game in.
Right. I don't know how well you are able to. Were you able to see what I had shared earlier with your
Mm-hmm.
gun?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I am going to share something else here because I jokingly blame Wanzik for that. Can you see that? Can you see the hole in that frame?
Oh gosh. Yep.
That's stage one, the strong hand, weak hand. But this was freestyle.
Oh.
I was tracking the A zone through the wall, and I thought I had cleared the post, but apparently I did not.
Yep. I've done the same exact thing in practice.
Uh,
My left eye sees it, and I slap that trigger, and then I look down at the target that's in front of me. And I'm like, oh, there's a hole in it. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't clear it out. It happens
so
for
I
sure.
jokingly blame Wanzik. That's Wanzik's fault. That's his miss.
Write his name underneath it.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Now, have you, since you listened to Steve Anderson, have you ever considered taking any of the mental management classes, like the Lanny Basham stuff?
I've considered it for sure. I just haven't got around to actually taking one. I've read his Lanny Basham's book. Great book. Kind of did so. I did Steve Anderson's book, Lanny Basham's book, Ben Stager's book, all on match mentality stuff. Whenever I hit that plateau in M, and definitely jumped up for sure from there. You can definitely tell a performance consistency. I wouldn't say a performance increase, but just like a consistency standpoint that helped a lot.
Okay. I got to write something down for when we talk about stage 19 and that win.
Oh gosh. Hey, a blind squirrel finds a nut every so often now.
That was a dominating win, actually. That was very impressive.
Thank you.
So, do you take an off season?
Yes. Normally after nationals, I'll take off from nationals to the end of the year, and then I'll pick up training again in January or February. And a lot of that is due to the range that I shoot at is on the hunting lease, and so I don't want to disturb hunters on the weekends by dropping 400 or 500 rounds while they're trying to bring a deer to the green field. And so I kind of lay off. I'll dry fire only whenever I feel like it. I won't be like regimental in it, and I'll shoot at matches here and there, mainly just for fun. I'll shoot from concealment or I'll shoot some irons, but kind of the competition mindset I kind of want to let go, and I'm just there to hang out with guys, hang out with friends, and just shoot for fun.
Okay, now this year's nationals was pretty early, so do you still consider yourself in the off season now?
I'll probably still keep going until our hunting season starts officially, and I might even try to, because Nats is so earlier next year too. It's in July instead of
June,
it's normally
actually.
October, September, or June. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I think
very end of June.
It'll be a lot. I might take like November, December off, maybe from live fire, but still be semi consistent with the dry fire. But this year's gonna be a little bit different than last year's for sure, because I want to keep up there. And I know if you want to be higher in placement, you gotta put in more work.
Yeah, those last three guys that jump over though, they can be pretty formidable.
Heck yeah, those are. I mean, you're fighting world champions at that point, you know. Like that's, that's
Brantley,
to think about.
Literally, the three guys who finished in front of you are the only three Carry Optics national champions ever.
It's a good way to put it. Very
yeah.
true.
Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
And I commend you for wanting to be there and willing to put in the work. So awesome.
Thank you very much.
June Kim said something that was very interesting. He actually tracks his nationals results from year to year, and he noticed that he has halved his standing each year. Was this How many nationals have you shot?
So I've shot 3. I shot my first nationals like 6 or 7 months into carry optics because I thought it was normal for everybody to shoot nationals, and so I took the family down to Frostproof and shot it, and
Okay.
I shot it in B class.
And then, so then you shot CMP twice and Frostproof once.
Yep.
At
Yep.
Frostproof.
Frostproof. Frostproof. I went in as B class and beat all of B class, all of A class, and packed about middle of M. I think I ended up at 28th or 29th in carry optics. I can't remember the exact one, at around like maybe 83%. And then the next year did 9th place. So last year did 9th place. And then this year got 4th.
So in a way, you are kind of tracking it. And obviously each year you are making significant gains. So very, very impressive. Now, when you were at Frostproof, what did you think about, do you remember stage 19 all the way at the end, far target out to the left?
Yes. They had to freaking drive a golf cart out there to score because it was so far.
Yes, they did. Nobody scored it but the ROs, and they sent a golf cart out. Were you able to shoot that in dry weather or wet weather?
I was dry. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It was dry. Didn't do as good as I wanted to on that stage, but it is what it is.
Okay. Well, we got lucky. We were able to shoot it day 2 right during the torrential downstorm right after lunch. So you got a 40.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't shoot any of that match in the rain. It was a little bit like a sprinkle here and there, but thankfully no rain and no bags. So I was lucky.
Okay, so you shot opposite of us then, because we shot morning, afternoon, morning. So you would have shot afternoon, morning, afternoon, because it was the afternoon of day 2 that got the rain. And that was our first stage. And sure enough, that 42-yard target had plastic on it. And I was looking at it from the start point, and I'm like, I can't really see shape. So I'm sitting there staring at it, trying to figure out where I'm going to be aiming. Because I'm like, there's really no shape. So.
Yeah. It sucks sometimes. Yeah, I shot zone C and then A and then B on a Frostproof.
Now, between the two, Frostproof and CMP, which do you prefer, taking distance out of the equation? Because you're obviously way closer to CMP than you are Frostproof. Taking that out of the equation, which place do you prefer to shoot nationals? Which one did you prefer?
I think probably CMP, because they're bigger bays, and so you can have bigger stages in them. I guess I remember a lot of smaller bays at Frostproof. It's been a while though. But I did like the continuous bays or the continuous awnings they had at Frostproof. That was super, super amazing. You could fit a ton of people underneath there because I guess it always rains in Florida, so they're used to it. They seem like they're more set up to hold national type events, but just the actual like bays themselves seemed better at CMP.
Yeah, and I think there's
That
some.
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely some advantages to the size of the bays at CMP. I wish they had a few more, but I definitely like the layout at Frostproof because, like I have been saying to other people, I go there to shoot it, but I also, because of the podcast, I go there to try to introduce myself to other shooters to have on the podcast like yourself. And I enjoy following the super squads and watching them shoot. And at CMP, when you have the women's and the men starting, well, at the end, the men are at one end of the zone and the women are all the way at the opposite end. It's like, I can't stand there and watch anymore. I've got to pick and choose.
It's hard to see them both.
It is. So it was nice at the beginning of each day because you guys were shooting next to each other, and I could just stand between the stages and watch all the shooters. So that was good. Now, are there?
Yeah, I wish CMP would have some more bays for sure. I'm not a big fan into like the double base shooting where like 2 small courses or 2 speed shoots. I like the big bays, the big stages, but I understand you kind of got to test some stuff in the smaller stages. But if they had a couple more bays, because I think Frostproof first year it was like 22 stages we shot, and every time at CMP it's like 18 or 19. And so I would like to see some more stages be added to get it up to at least above 20, 21, 22 kind of area.
I think for 3 days, I feel like 24 is a good number. 8 each day. As long as you can start at 8 in the morning. The problem at CMP is you can't start shooting till 9. So
yeah, I think somewhere in the 7 to 8 per day range is great. Because that's your normal local match. Most guys shoot anywhere from like 6 or 7 stages at a local. And I mean, if you come to a nationals, you want to shoot. So why not shoot a little more stages?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, have you traveled around and shot any like area matches outside of Area 6?
Not too much. So I've shot Area 6 2 years now up in North Carolina, and I shot Area 5 last year in Kentucky. And those are about the only farthest driven. I'll drive to Georgia and I'll shoot Georgia State. That's a really, really fun match. And that's about the extent that I have traveled. I'm trying to travel a whole lot more in the future, in this next year and the year after. And I want to shoot as many big matches as I can. I want to go shoot Dragons Cup. Everybody rants and raves and says that's an amazing event. So I want to go out there, shoot Dragons Cup if I can, shoot a couple area matches, and just have some more fun with it. Get to know more people around the country, see different locations.
Yeah, I think Dragons Cup would be a good one to go shoot. There is a lot of brouhaha about that. I mean, a lot of positive comments. So,
heck yeah. I would make the argument that's like one of the top 5 biggest matches in the year. Like it's real close to being like that. Just everybody goes to it. It's from what I've heard, it's well set up, ran, has good sponsors, kind of they take care of you, good stages, good formats, fun shooting. So overall, it seems like they're doing something right over there.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Now, and it's, I also feel there's benefit to shooting against those guys who are your competition, whether it be, JJ Nils, Max, or any of the other guys who were on the Super Squad, or Jay Beal, who wasn't on there, but could be every year. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that guy could be on last year. He would have 100% been on the Super Squad this year.
Absolutely.
I was fully expecting him to be on it this year. But
I don't
understand where it comes first.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the way they determine who's on the Super Squad. And this year, and again in June, I feel that they need to have 2. You need to have Super Squad A, Super Squad B, because you have enough guys. You have enough guys who are in those. You have 20. Look, when you have the people you have showing up for a standalone carry optics match, you literally have the best of the best. And with it being in June and the World Shoot over, is Christian Seiler now going to shoot the standalone carry optics match or national championship next year in June? So why not take the top 25 people? Because when you have those people show up, it's no longer your normal nationals. And this is literally the creme de la creme. You have everybody showing up who is anybody. Make 2 of them. Have 2 super squads.
Yeah, I mean, because this is, I can't remember, and I mean, I've only been around the sport for about 3 years, but this nationals like completely split the super squad. Like half the people who are on super squad are not going to be on it next year, And like kind of looking back at previous years, that hasn't happened, I think, to the degree it happened this year. And that's just because of all the other competitors coming in and shooting it. I
Yes.
really, really like the concept of the carry optics only nationals because, I mean, it is the biggest division. Everybody and their grandmother is going to get a pistol with a dot and coming to shoot, you know?
Yeah.
And I like that. I like it being spaced out. So you can have your open shooters, your production shooters, everybody join in. I mean, I can't think of a major like competitor who didn't shoot carry optics other than like Casey, Tilly, and Siler. You know, like other than those
Yeah.
three guys, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but like everybody else was there. Like they were. It was the heat. It was the match to go to for sure. I mean, because I don't
Absolutely.
know. I would even argue that it was the biggest match other than like a Worlds and heat compared to any national that's ever been, just because it was everybody was there.
Yeah, I shoot a Canic. Obviously, Nils shoots a Canic. I shoot a rival, but I started shooting Canic before I knew who Nils was, so I didn't buy it because of that. But since then, I've obviously followed him a lot. I've had him on the show. I'm going to have him on again, and I hung out with him at Shot Show a lot during the day when he was there. So I got to talk to him a lot. And he and I were chatting recently privately on Instagram, and he equated the win this year to his 2014 limited win, where everybody who was anybody showed up because that was a standalone match and everybody showed
Ooh.
up to shoot limited. So it's been 8 years that they've had anything of this size with this type of heat. And it is the biggest division. So it's the most popular division. You're going to get the most heat, the most competition in that division. So let's keep it going and let's make it better.
Mm-hmm. And like I feel like it's semi in the middle of the categories because you can have your open guys who can grab a carry optics gun and can learn the recoil impulse of a carry optics gun and shoot well. But then you also have your production and your limited guys who take the same gun they're shooting but just put a dot on it and they can compete at carry optics. And so like, there's lots of crossover. You know, it's not like a revolver guy going to shoot open. You know, like there's so many other things he has to learn. Like it's a very similar platform to a lot of other divisions that just takes a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of live fire to confirm some stuff up, and then it's just your normal shooting.
Yeah, and other than open, it's the same platform that people use in limited and production. So,
Mm-hmm.
people shoot SIGs in limited, they'll shoot a 40 SIG. So,
You
yeah.
got Coley shooting clocks. I mean, there's lots of plastic guys. I mean, Nils
Yeah.
just won it with no, yeah, Nils won it with a plastic gun. I mean, you got
Well, he
Mason
was,
shooting sticks.
yeah. Nation shooting SIGs, Isaac Lockwood shoots SIGs. I mean, everybody. It's that it bridges
The time
everything.
for like, yes, definitely. The time where it's you have to have this gun to win. I think that time is over. Um, I think it really just comes down to who is the better competitor, no matter the gun you put in their hands. I think what it comes down to. Because I mean, early on you had to compete with that specific gun in that division, you know, and now
Right.
I don't think that's the case anymore.
No, I think, yeah, it's definitely come down to, how well do you know your gun and how well can you run it, and that's what it's coming down to. So,
And that's also
absolutely.
says something about the industry too. I mean, there's been lots of advancements in the
Mm.
firearm and the red dot miniature optic advancements over the past couple of years that has been allowed to have different platforms perform great. You know, there's not just one platform that outshines everybody else. They all have what they're good at.
Yeah, and that's a good point. The guns themselves have improved. I mean, who would have guessed that, a Turkish company that nobody had heard of before would produce a gun good enough to win nationals, maybe worlds, and then now you have red dot companies cranking out all different types of red dot. So depending on your budget and what you want and what you prefer, holy cow,
Mm-hmm.
it's the combinations are endless.
Definitely. I mean, you can go Acros, SROs, Holosons. I think EOTech has a red dot. You can get
Yeah.
Seymour's, SIGs. I mean, every company is making an optic for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before nationals, we talked a little bit earlier about your training and how you ramp up. When you see the match book for Carry Optics Nationals, um, especially like for this year, there in the match book, there seemed to be a lot of low ports, but when I got there and walked the stages, that's what I was looking for. There was really only a couple of low ports and they weren't that low. Um,
Yeah.
but there was a little bit of strong hand weekend, not much, and there were some unloaded starts. Do you ever pick out certain things in the match book and go, okay, I'm going to focus on this over the next month to make it a strong point?
Definitely. I don't really look at like the overall stage in general, just because they change
Right.
so much compared to
Yeah.
the book and how they put on the ground. But 100%, I'll look at every start position. I'll make me an Excel sheet of how many times it's hands below, how many times it's hands above, how many times it's unloaded, how many times it's loaded on
Hmm.
barrel, and so on and so forth. And then I'll be like, okay, well, it's favoring this aspect. So I put in a lot of practice with unloaded starts, from hands above, hands below, mag next to the gun, mag on the belt, moving after you do it. And then I practiced a couple of times with low ports, just kind of getting into a low port, because that was the first time I've shot a tunnel. Because in the match book, it was described as a Cooper's tunnel. And then when we got there, it changed into just a normal tunnel, I guess. And so I definitely put
Right.
in some time of getting into a squat, and then shooting from a squat. Practice that in live fire a couple times. And other than that, I mean, I don't have access to swingers and activators at my home range. I have to go to my local match to see those. And so I'll kind of I'll put a little check mark next to the stage if they have those, and then whenever I walk them the day before, I'll be sure to kind of go and watch them and how other competitors shoot them, how fast they activate, and try to videotape them. If it's like an activator sequence, I'll try to take a video of it, and so I can have some kind of reference.
Interesting. That's not the first time I've been hearing, people taking video of the activator sequence. So, um, how do you normally use that video at nationals? Did you take any video at nationals like that?
Not at this one. This one kind of seemed straightforward. Talking with some other
Okay.
high level guys that were out there at the time, they were literally just like left, right, left, right. Like just shoot the steel left, right, and then shoot all the activators left to right. It was pretty simple. But last year, it was like stage 7 or 8 where you had like the 3 bobbers and the pop outs. Like 100% watched that one because the timing was all weird on that one. They weren't very consistent, and like the left one activated faster or slower, and the right one it was kind of so on and so forth. And so you kind of had to guess a little bit on it. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you put too much emphasis on one thing, and it really didn't even help
Mm.
you at all. But it is what it is.
Do you think your training leading up to nationals worked out well for you?
Definitely, definitely. A lot more of the predictive shooting, confidence building to go into nationals, saying, hey, I can do these things. Now I just have to actually perform them, and not being scared whenever you see a 30-yard target, not being scared whenever you see a touch target at 5, not being scared whenever you see a low port or something like that.
Okay. And that all makes sense. Now, what are your do you have any IPSC goals?
To start shooting it. That's about it. I have I I don't know the first thing about IPSC, honestly. I don't think my gun is legal in IPSC, so I have to get a different gun, and I'll have to dive into like the rules, how you shoot the match, the different procedurals and stuff like that. But I would definitely love to start getting into the IPSC category, and shoot not just USPSA. So shoot a little bit of IPSC, maybe even shoot some IDPA just for the heck of it. Shoot some steel challenge, some 2 gun, just to get out there and to just branch out in the industry.
Okay. So your shooting goals, do you have any goals to be a we'll say quote unquote professional shooter or always keep this the way it
Um,
is now?
I would love to pursue this as a career for sure. I would love to dive into the more of the training side, definitely. That would be something
Okay.
I'm very much so interested in. And I know I have to kind of work on myself before I can teach others. Because I mean, if you can do something, that's great. But like, if you can inspire and help others do the same thing you're doing, that's a whole different category, you know. And so there's some
Right.
things I need to learn. And honestly, I need to go take some classes. I've had zero formal training up to this point, so I don't know what a class feels like. I don't know how a class runs, and so I want to go and take some classes
Mm.
for some high level guys, see how classes run, so that in the future I can teach classes on my own. Just I need a basis to kind of see how things go, and I definitely want to get better with irons too. I think a good instructor should know how to teach both dots and optics, or dots and irons. And I have like zero practice with irons. I basically started out with a dot and I've kept it, and so I want to kind of go back, start practicing the dot more before I can teach some classes.
Okay. It's interesting having talked to people who have and do train individuals. They've what I've learned is they believe that starting a person with a dot is the best way to do it. And their reasoning was when you're shooting irons, it's hard to see that front sight all the time and what it's doing, but you can always see that dot. So you can really work on, your target focus, seeing what the dot's doing so you can get your grip right, trigger manipulation, the whole 9 yards.
I would agree with that. I had some like out of country people come and shoot guns at my range for the very first time in their entire lives, and so I put them all up on red dot pistols, and they weren't like they were good bullseye shooters. I would say that. I wouldn't say they had understanding of like the practical speed aspect of shooting. But for like practical, for I think for bullseye shooting, a red dot 100% is like the way to go to somebody to start pistols, or even just to intro in firearms in general, because they're just easier to use. You know, if you can figure out how to get the dot in the window for them, then you're good. You know, other than that point, I think irons does have some advantages when it comes to kind of fudging, because as you're drawing, you can kind of see the front and the back of your gun in the peripheral, and you can somewhat line it up as you're going forward. Or you've put in thousands and thousands and thousands of reps in dry fire, and so you know your presentation is going to be there, you know. But some new guys
Right.
haven't put that experience in, and so they kind of use that as a kind of a crutch a little bit because they haven't put in the effort in the beginning to get it. But for new shooters, they don't know what they don't know, and so sometimes it's helpful. But it's just preference, I think, on what the instructor wants to do and what the person wants to do. I don't think if you're an individual who's just getting into firearms, my personal belief is I don't think you have to know how to shoot irons because the way the market is going. I mean, because look at it. In like several years ago, rifles, that was like the standard. You had to have irons on rifles, and now optics are becoming so indestructible and or more reliable. Some people don't put backup irons on their rifles anymore. You know, you're either running LPVOs, EOTechs, aim points, stuff like that, high quality optics that you can depend on, and so you don't have to learn how to shoot irons because most everything has dots anyway. Um, that's my personal
Yeah.
opinion. If you're going to be an instructor, I think you need to learn both. But as an individual, I think you could probably get away with just learning the dot.
Yeah. I mean, people are putting, backup red dots, like a pistol red dot on the side, angled off of their optic as it is. So, yeah.
Heck yeah, that's what I have on my rifle. I got a LPVO and then a red dot offset.
Okay. All right. Now I want to get into some of this craziness you have done with
Oh
shooting.
gosh, I'm interested to see the craziness you are referring to.
Well, I'm talking about stage 19 at nationals.
Uh,
And for those who don't know what I'm, what I mean is, he won he won this stage by 2 seconds over the nearest shooter, which was Nils. So one of the things, so I've got it up on the screen, but I'm not going to hit play yet because I have a question. So when you are going into a stage like this,
mhm.
how do you determine? Look, it's a big field stage. There's a lot of shots being fired on this stage. So obviously,
Heck yeah.
your hits matter because there's only so much time for most people The rest of the field was very crowded in time. You're the only one who really
Mhm.
separated yourself. So if you're going into this and you know you're going to be in the thick of that time, how do you determine what you're going to do? Like, are there stage calculations going through your head?
Most definitely, definitely. So I think that's one of the big proponents of like having a timer in your practice. You know how fast you can do things. Generally, like you know how fast you can split a 7-yard open, a partial at 7 yards, an open at 25, and so you can kind of have those rough numbers in your head, so that you can kind of game plan of, hey, how long is it take me to shoot this array versus if I run up 10 yards and then shoot it. Do
Mm.
you think that there's any benefit in that? Um, but this stage in particular, it was. I think it comes down to preference. Honestly, would you do you think you can get up from a squat, run? I think it was like 10 or 15 yards, and then shoot targets that are 10, 12 yards away, or do you think you can shoot everything from the back at 25 yards and get away with it? And I've been practicing lots of distance shooting, so 25, 30, 40 yards, and I felt like I was relatively comfortable from shooting in a squat. A lot of guys were saying, "Oh, you're squatting, so you're different shooting," but as long as your torso is vertical, I don't think there's any difference in shooting. Okay, whether you're sitting or kneeling or squatting, shooting is shooting. As long as like your angle of your arms to your eyes is the same. Now, if you're like crouched down shooting up or crouched down shooting down, it might be a little different. But I mean, torso was straight, the arm was straight out, and it wasn't like a crazy, like if those swingers had been partials, I probably would have run it. But they were open swingers. They weren't like super super fast swingers either. They were just the right speed where you thought you could track it the whole time. The bobber wasn't fast at all, and then the other
Okay.
target literally just dropped out and stayed. And so it just comes to the preference on if you feel like you can get away with it or not. And also it comes trial and error. So like there's been stages in the past where I've done that same principle, but then I got beat by local guys where I was like, hey, I think I can stay back in the stage, shoot all of it from the front or all of it from the back. But then other guys run up to the front, shoot them all quick. And so it's trial and error and a little bit of guesswork, a lot of luck, and then just rest on your fundamentals.
So do you ever use the swag method? Scientific wild ass guess?
I'm not familiar with probably, probably a lot.
All right, I'm gonna go.
What goes on in my head.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it. So for those people who are just listening, it's a hands on the wall start, and you've got to run. I'm gonna guess what, about 6 to 8 feet to the right, and then at about
Mhm.
what is it, 7 to 10 yards, there's 8 to 10
Probably
steel
about 10 or
array.
12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how far back that
Mhm.
farthest
Well, you
piece
got
of steel
a
is. Yeah,
minimum of, what is it,
10
minimum of 10
yards.
yards per piece of steel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, probably about 10 to 12 to 10 to 13 would be the range to the targets then. All right. So there's the beep and bang, 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 bang. Now, how did you feel it? Because you can't see you engaging the steel here. How did you feel? How did that go? Did that part go okay?
So I watched. Yes, I was probably middle of the pack to shoot this stage, and a lot of people just would throw way too many makeups on the steel, and I mean that
Okay.
just drags your time down off the start. And so I was like, hey, I have to shoot a little bit more precise and see that dot on every single piece of steel. Um, just so I like kind of getting a little bit of confidence as soon as I start the stage, whether
Okay.
that be like the first target I engage, if it goes smooth, I just feel more confident in the stage. Or like this position, I shot all the steel clean. I got out of position pretty decently. Like I just felt like I was good. Like it was going to be a good stage.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you are bolting out of position here, running to position 2, which is, I believe it was 2 open paper targets.
One open and I think one hardcover, or I
Okay.
think it was a hardcover or no shoot. It was a partial at some partial.
Right. I've got it somewhere, but it might take me a minute or two to find the picture. And
The biggest one of
then,
those ones is just don't. Yeah, or thinking about those two targets, I was like, don't be planted. Don't run up, stop, and then shoot. I wanted to shoot in and shoot out to get out of that position as fast as possible.
so did you come in on the open target then?
Yes.
Okay.
I shot in on the open, and then just did a hesitation step, is what I call it, where I don't even put 2 feet on the ground. I still have 1 foot up, and I'm kind of just leaning at the last second and throwing two on that partial, and then I'm going out of position.
Okay. And that's where you are here. It almost looks like, yeah, your right foot, the only thing touching might be your toe, maybe.
Maybe.
And then boom. Yeah, maybe. It's either dangling in the air or just barely touching. So you've reloaded.
That's about how my shooting goes.
Okay.
It's either 1 foot or like a tiptoe or something.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right. I get it. Now here's your first array on the right. So it's 3 paper targets. You're in and out of that pretty quick. And I find it now you didn't even reload. So that was 12 shots. And then it would be 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 shots minimum down
12.
Range. Because it's what, 2 steel and 3 paper.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the way I reloaded coming into the tunnel.
You did. And
during the tunnel, you have 3 targets on the right, 3 targets on the left, and then the 8 shots at the end. And so a combined total of 20 shots. I reload into a 22 round magazine with 1 in the chamber. So I actually have 3 makeup shots. That's a little bit risky. I'd like to have a little bit more makeup shots, but I was kind of in the mindset of accurate hits instead of fast hits. Now, if I were to have thrown a couple makeups on the first 2 positions in the tunnel, I probably would have done a reload. But those 2 positions shot clean, and so I was confident in having those makeups, and ended up didn't even need 1 of those makeups.
Okay. Now, yeah, that's a lot of confidence. But I also noticed. So I'm curious when you turned. Well, so you shot the first array on the right. You moved forward, kneeling down, and shot the second array of paper targets on the left. You were able to shoot from the exact same position. Like you didn't have to adjust your position at all. Looking at this now.
That is correct.
So how much rehearsal did it take to
Go ahead.
How much rehearsal did it take for you to, that was very smooth, for you to get that down?
Just walking the stage the day before, kind of noticing, hey, if I kind of, you notice I'm not kind of in the middle of the tunnel either. I'm favoring this right side.
Yes.
And that's because if you favor the right side, you can drop your left knee and kind of lean forward to see that last target in the position, and then immediately stand up or lean forward back, and you're seeing the steel. And so I knew going into that position, I have to stay off the port because I didn't want to dig my gun into the port and get all stuck and then have to reposition while I'm squatting. I really kind of wanted to just be in one position and shoot the most amount of targets I can from one position instead of making it 2 positions.
I have not counted the shots there. Did you have to have any makeups there?
No, sir.
At the end?
They were all clean.
Wow.
I went left steel, right steel, 2 on the bobber, 1 shot on the swinger. I was a little late on the swinger, so I only got 1 shot off on the first pass. Went to the stationary, threw 1 at the stationary, went back to the swinger, threw another 1 at the swinger, went back to the stationary, and got 1 at the stationary. But at that distance, those transitions are really, really small angles because you're so far away. So it really didn't eat up that much time. Plus the swinger was already like unshootable. And so I was taking up that time shooting another target, and ended up getting 2 alphas on the stationary, alpha at Charlie on the bobber, and alpha delta on the swinger.
Okay. So your hits were there. I mean, yeah, that's impressive. That's why I wanted to talk about this stage in particular, because that was I would have to be honest with you, I would have from at my level, to be that smooth, it would take a lot of mental rehearsal for me to be able to, and maybe even in my hotel room, to make sure that that last transition from the array on the left to the array downrange, that transition would be smooth. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Um, so mental rehearsal. So a couple things with that. So like, kind of knowing I'm going to be shooting some far targets, and I want to have my center of gravity well, and so that means, hey, I want to drop this left knee to be planted on the ground. So instead of I'm not like in a full squat, because you can kind of be a little bit weeble wobbly in a squat. So I
Yeah.
want to drop the knee, at least have some kind of solid foundation. But then mental rehearsal, every single stage, I rehearse in my mind several times over, to the point where if I can close my eyes, I can kind of see like a chapter book of just like slideshows of where my eyes go to each target. So I would be like, okay, the center of this target, the center of this target, this one's a partial, so I'm going to favor this position over that one, and just run that over in my head over and over and over again until it's literally subconscious at the point, so that whenever I shoot the stage, the only thing that I'm thinking about is what is my dot doing. Everything else is on autopilot. And then
Okay.
there's one other thing. Oh, you were saying a quick transition from the last target to the steel, and that's just eye speed. Just don't. A lot of guys over confirm after they shoot a target. What I like to call it is the third sight picture. So in our sport, you shoot paper targets generally twice. And during the lift off of your gun on the second shot, you already want your eyes to be finding where your gun's going next. A lot of people have the tendency of letting the dot or the gun come back in recoil as they're still staring at the target, then shift their attention, and then the gun moves. And that's just a little bit inefficient, and also takes up a lot of time. You do that 10 times throughout the stage, and so like that it comes up to be like seconds of your stage time. Versus if you can, in recoil, lift your eyes to another position, find it, the gun will naturally come back into position, and you're ready to fire.
So how long did it take you to get that skill down?
A good while, for sure. I've kind of always been kind of fast twitched in that aspect, but to kind of put it into the context of shooting, it took me a good while.
Now, Brantley, I feel that you are a very aggressive, fast shooter. So, do you find it difficult to be patient and not like I can hear it in your voice? You're like, that second shot, my eyes are moving. Do you ever find yourself coming off before, maybe as you're pressing that second shot?
Most definitely. Definitely. That's something I have to work on, is being disciplined enough into each target position that I'm not pulling off too early. And also comes into practice. But what I like to say is, like, I can push speed and I can be the fastest guy out there, but my hits are going to be absolutely atrocious. If I focus on what my dot is doing and where my eyes are going on each target, my accuracy jumps up tremendously, but also I'm still generally fast. And so it's kind of what you focus on. I think there's two different types of shooters. I think there's the fast shooters who have to work on accuracy, and then there's the accuracy shooters who have to work on speed. I am the fast shooter who has to work on accuracy. And so I can't go into a stage thinking, hey, I got to be fast. I got to be fast. If I do that, I'm going to drop Charlie's deltas left and right like crazy. If I go into it saying to myself mentally, this is subconsciously and consciously, like saying it out loud to myself or in my head, hey, I have to get my hits. I have to see my dot on every target. Also, I have to shot call. I think shot calling is so underrated, because at these distances, like, you have to call each shot so you know as soon as the gun lifts, you know where that bullet already went, and so you know you're okay to move targets. A lot of times, like, you'll see it lift and I'll continue back on, throw another one, and then I'll go. But sometimes if it's like a predictive pair, I shoot two, I come off, and I go back to it because I called that second shot bad. And that's just kind of the gaming aspect. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. You kind of got to play the game and see where it lands.
That's a good explanation. You shoot that gun very flat. So, and look, there's John scouting in the almost in the tunnel with you.
Just about, yeah.
I have a feeling you might
Yeah,
be on
I like the
USA,
shadow.
Shooting USA.
Yeah, that'd be awesome for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know
I
why they wouldn't
I like
put
watching.
that run in there because that was a blazing fast run.
Thank you.
All right. So the next one
It
I
was a lot of
wanted
fun. That
to.
was a nice way to end day one, because generally I can. So looking over the past three nationals that I've shot, I always just shoot day one atrociously. I dig myself a humongous hole that I have to climb out of the rest of the days. Day two, I like the top of my game, and then day three, I'm in the middle of those two performances. And so to end day one with that performance, I was super super happy with, because I hadn't been shooting that great the rest of the day.
Okay, I get that. And that was your last stage of day one, and it was a stage win. Now,
Mhm.
the interesting part is you start off day two on stage one of the match. So you finished stage 19 the day before. You start on stage one, and you start off the day with a stage one.
Yep.
Now, that's what I wanted to show here. Now, I found it interesting that you started both runs on the right side. Now, for those people listening that maybe didn't attend nationals, this was a 6 round, 6 target stage where you're only
Yep.
putting 1 round freestyle and then reload, and then 1 round on each target strong hand for the first string. And you started on the right, whereas I would say 95+% of everybody started on the left, at least for this one. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what made you choose the right side for both string?
Going into the matchbook, I saw that there was going to be some moving and shooting, or potential place to move and shoot strong hand and weak hand. And so I did hit that in dry fire and live fire pretty hard, so that I was able to accomplish this goal, which was so you had two. So on the right side from where I started, you have two targets, and there's really no other way to shoot those two targets other than stationary. You really can't leave on one. You can. I didn't really feel comfortable doing it. You have an open target at 10, 15 yards, and then a partial at like 7. And I wanted to shoot. And then you have a slasher, a tux, no shoot, and a head box. And I wanted to shoot as many of the hardest shots with 2 hands on the gun, and then the easier shots with 1 hand on the gun while moving. I was comfortable moving one-handed. A lot of people were not, and so they would take this stage as like a 4-position stage. Um,
Right.
so I shot my 2 targets, kind of ran to a position where I was almost able to see all the targets, and then I would shoot all the targets one shot while moving freestyle, reload, and I'm standing in front of the 2 hardest targets, in my opinion, were the head box and the no shoot. Those were, I thought, had the most opportunity for risk. And so I was going to be stationary, one-handed, either one, and shoot the head box and no shoot. And then I was going to move, at least take a step on the tux and the slasher, and then it's just a quick run to the end and shoot the remaining 2. But I felt like I was confident enough to shoot all those targets on the move, coming into position freestyle, and then I was stationary for the last 2 hardest ones. And then that's kind of how my mind went up. Um, I like shooting on the move. It's just I like to take the risk.
Right. And I mean, at your level, you almost have to remain competitive with those guys. And I mean, everybody on the super squad and the Jay Beals of the world,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to do that to stay competitive. But I also find it very interesting because this will also show the difference between our skill level in shooting. I looked at this stage as what's going to be easiest for me to move through the stage, depending on whether I'm strong hand or weak hand. So when I shot strong hand, so like for this stage that I'm about to run, I actually started on the left because I felt more comfortable moving with my right. My body's already going to be angled a certain way. And I felt like
Yep.
for me, moving from right to left strong hand was working out better. And when we get to the partial with the stripe, I shot that moving backwards slowly one handed. But with my weak hand, I wanted to come into that with the gun in front of me so I could keep moving slow, but I knew my dot was on there and then I could run
Mhm.
to the end. So I looked at it, whereas I never considered the last two shots. They were the hardest because the very last shot was a
Mhm.
head box with a no shoot below it. Um,
Uh,
so I,
Head box with yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
so I had never considered
That's
that those are the hardest, but I would be stationary.
mhm. Yeah. With the head box too, like I felt like a lot of people were going to throw just two on brown on that target, and so I really, really wanted to take the time and get as many of the alphas on that head box as possible, while having good speed, because they're you still got to get all your alphas. No matter how fast you are, you have to hit alphas.
Right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. So here you are on the right side. Timer goes off. Bam, bam. That was quick. Moving, 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 move. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So I was mistaken. I was thinking the head box target had the no shoot, but it's just a hard cover black below the
Mhm.
head box. All right. So, yep, you're in position, far left side. You're doing your mag change now. And strong hand, bang,
I'll
bang,
shoot
bang.
two
Yeah, that
targets,
was,
and then I'll start moving.
yeah, that
Yep.
was, let me go back here.
Same thing with the weak hand. Now I think I might be picking up my right foot as I'm shooting the no shoot, or
Let,
it's
let,
when I'm transitioning to the tucks.
okay, let's check it out. Well, you're
Head
already
box.
picking up, yeah, you're already picking up your foot when you're shooting the head box because your foot is barely
Might be a little
touching the
too early
ground.
then.
What's that?
I shoot normally one. I said that might be a little too early.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to be lifting up my foot, as I'm calling the shot on the no shoot, because I just did not want to throw a penalty.
Okay. So you're sliding over now, and your left foot is coming up. Yeah, your left foot is your toe. It looks like only the toe and the ball of your foot is on the ground when you shot the no shoot.
I've been a little too fast.
But it worked out though,
See,
didn't
I
it?
told you a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. I got lucky on that one, apparently.
I mean, this is yeah, I mean it worked. Let's see where your right heel is down and you're on your left ball and it looks like you're about to shoot on the tuck. Yeah, it was hard to
I
tell. It's
think
right
that's
in
the
between frames there.
slasher. Am I shooting the slasher or the tucks right there?
Well, let's see here. Oh, that was the slasher. Yeah.
Okay, so I was moving. I was moving on the tucks, and I was a little more stationary on the no shoot.
Yeah,
So we had
let's
one shot.
okay, there's yeah.
So
Well, yeah, you
head
you
box.
had lifted on the head box, you had lifted your right foot up to where it's just the ball of the foot touching.
Head box.
And now we're transitioning.
Still,
There's oh
and
yeah.
that's no shoot. So I'm pretty
Okay.
planted. That's how I wanted to shoot it. And then I wanted to be moving on the tucks, or at least picking a foot up. So I'm
Yep.
transitioning. My left foot's coming up,
Yep. You picked up your back foot.
and then a little hesitation step. Throw
Yep.
on the slasher.
Now I find this funny because, and correct me if you, well, let me know if you do it differently, but I like to, if I'm moving and I need to slow down, like that hesitation, I like to drag my
Mhm.
toe to give me balance and to control my speed.
I think I do that not consciously. I don't think
Okay.
about dragging it on purpose. I think I just kind of do it sometimes, not generally. But I have noticed in some match videos I have dragged a foot, drug a foot, however you say that.
Yeah, it works. Both of them work. Yeah, I've played a lot of sports, so I've used my feet to help balance, and I have found that I actually feel the fault lines and other things with my feet and my toes. So
Yeah.
I wish I
I
had.
love to have a foot on the fault line for sure, because you want
Yeah,
to. Sometimes I've made the mistake of where I'm like completely outside of position shooting, and you don't even know it because you don't even feel the fault line. But if you kind of come into position, feel that fault line, you know you're good, and so you keep shooting.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it looks like you're shooting, and it looks like as soon as you fired that shot, That left leg is up and moving, and boom, there you go. Now, do you always make these interesting faces when you run?
Yes, sir. I like the tight lips as I'm shooting, and I'm just trying to dig hard and get to that end.
Yeah, it's funny the faces we all make when we do this.
Heck yeah.
You can tell there's effort. That's how you know people are putting effort into it.
Heck yeah. You can hear some, if you like, a lot of guys have the hat cam, and you'll hear them
Yeah.
like grunt or cuss or something like that while they're sprinting. And so it's
Yeah.
pretty funny. But there ain't no fixing with whatever face you make. It would take
No.
tons of practice for you to change that. That's real hard to do.
So here you've deployed your parachute, you've changed your angle coming into the final position, and
Yep.
gun is
Drop that butt and just try to kind of lean back a little bit.
It looks like you found your dot quick. That one was quick. You make the transition and bang.
I think I had maybe 2 or 3 Charlies on the strong hand run. It wasn't a lot, but I picked up a Delta on the weekend. On the last target of the weekend string, I picked up a Delta.
I picked up a Delta on this open target back here, and I don't remember if it was strong hand. It had to be strong hand actually, because that's where I reloaded, and I noticed that as soon as I saw the red dot on the brown, I pulled the trigger, and I was like, that's way low. I know that's low. That's low and right. Oof, that's ugly. I'll show the other half of that. And then, so you came in and shot the slasher back here first. Whereas, and look, I am not the guy who finished 4th at Carry Optics National. So I am not saying what I did was right in any way, shape, or form. I did it different. But I came in on the tuck because I felt like I could get my dot up on the target faster. And then there's more available brown back here. So I felt like that was an easier transition, and walking straight back in dry fire, I know that I feel very confident moving forward and moving backward in dry fire. Like I feel like I can keep the dot on the target easy. So that's why I went here, turned, shot this backing up, and then by that time I was in position over here to be able to engage these. Now, why did you choose the slasher, then the tuck?
So yeah, what you were saying, 100%. If you feel confident in doing something, do it that way versus doing it a different way. I don't believe in there's like a perfect way to do something, but there is definitely a
wrong way
performance way to do something. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a wrong way. Sometimes there are just lots of correct ways, but it comes down to how you actually perform.
Well, I think if you're doing something out of your comfort zone when you could do something better that's in your comfort zone, then that's doing it the other way is the wrong way for you.
Definitely. I would 100% agree with that.
Okay.
So coming into this position, I just felt like the slasher kind of disappeared faster than the tucks. Kind of as you were walking to the left, it was the first one to kind of disappear, and then you could see the rest of them. But also, I didn't want to transition back and forth a lot, so I didn't want to come over here to the tucks, go to the slasher, and then come back to the no shoot. I kind of wanted to just go to one end and then almost hold the gun straight and just keep walking the whole entire time, so that my transitions were a little bit easier. I didn't have to swing the gun a whole lot, and I was able to track the dot a lot easier.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is you're too fast and you just need to slow down.
Basically.
You slow down to my level and you'll be fine.
Heck yeah. I get the alphas.
Yeah. And look, what is this? You are shooting with your legs crossed. I'm pretty sure there's a rule against this.
I do not prescribe one bit to the 2 feet planted, squat a little bit style of shooting. Now, if you're bullseye shooting, if you're stationary shooting, 100%. But I don't practice like being in the perfect fundamentally sound stance to shoot, because you're going to be in all different ways to shoot in real life and also in practical shooting, you know. So
Yeah.
I like to mix it up in dry fire practice and cross feet. But I come from a basketball background, and so there's lots
Okay.
of crossing the feet. So sometimes getting low, and so I know I'm decently fast with moving my feet, and I don't generally trip myself up too often. Now my wife would say I trip myself up a lot, but we just won't ask her.
Yeah. She's not on the podcast. We're not asking her.
Nope. Nope.
Well, and I mean that, but that makes sense because I've played a lot of basketball. I've played intramural basketball, but I typically wrestled or played football in school, so I didn't play basketball in school. But I played enough. I mean, look, I was 5'9" and I could touch my wrist to a basketball rim back in the day, so I could play
You beat me then.
basketball. So I totally get, man, the awareness of your feet and moving and all of that, especially, when you're dribbling and moving your feet, all that has to be coordinated. So it makes perfect sense. But so you shot one target while your right leg is crossing over your left. As soon as that right foot hit the ground, your left foot's coming up and you are putting a shot on that tuxedo target.
Mhm.
That's crazy fast. It looks like your dot is already moving to or on the second target, which has the no shoot, as your left foot is still moving. Look at that. As soon as you're somewhere in between your foot barely touching and being on the ground, you have already put the shot on the no shoot target, not in the no shoot. Right foot's up, right foot's crossing over, and there you are again, shooting with your legs crossed. And neither foot is planted.
Common theme.
So that's very impressive.
Thank you. It's a detriment sometimes. A lot of like stationary positions, I'll catch myself. I'll go back and watch video, and I have one foot planted solidly on the ground, and the other foot, for no other reason, is like barely tiptoed on the ground. And I'm fully stationary. I'm shooting like a easy target, and for no reason. So that's something I got to work on. But at the end of the day, this is a game, and so I think you do need to game every entry. You need to come into a position knowing how you're going to exit that position. So already having your weight on the correct foot, or already leaning sometimes on a target instead of waiting till after the last shot to initiate movement. I think if you initiate movement almost during the shot or during the array, depending on the target difficulty and the distance, I think you can gain some time from that.
And I mean, that goes to exactly how you won the stage. I mean, it all goes back to comfort and what you're able to do, the individual shooter himself or herself can do.
Definitely. And like you're saying, 90% of the super squad shot this stage from the left. And doing that, there really wasn't you could still move and shoot. Not a lot of guys moved and shoot as much as me. And I ended up getting about a second and a half to 2 seconds on each string on the super squad.
Wow. Now, how are you shooting that weekend? It looks like your arm is completely extended. And is it slightly tilted inward, or is it straight up and down?
So it's slightly tilted inward, and there's just a little bit of bend in it, not much.
Right.
Just enough to kind of have some kind of shock absorbing aspect going.
Right.
And then of course my non-shooting arm is tucked against my chest, because I don't want my arm kind of dangling out in free space, moving around, flopping, and that's just going to move my gun around.
Right.
And so I kind of want it tucked in tight to the body.
Yeah, that's the old bullseye thing too. You always when you're shooting one-handed, you always keep your left hand anchored to something so it's not causing any other movement.
Definitely. And actually, I just got over a left hand thumb injury like 2 or 3 months ago, and so I did lots of dry fire, one strong hand only, and actually shot a local match strong hand only the whole match, just because I wanted to continue shooting. I didn't want it to put me out, and that was a lot of fun. To shoot fully one-handed was a huge, like a weird thing to do. It just didn't feel natural, but it was a lot of fun.
But that's also competitive wise, that's a very smart thing to do, especially in preparation for something like this, when there's strong hand, weak hand shooting. doing everything strong hand or weak hand will definitely give you a lot more comfort and confidence, and give you stuff that you can go back and go, okay, I need to practice this strong hand or weak hand or this, you know? So it's actually,
Definitely.
I imagine that's also kind of hard because the competitive side of you, and maybe you can put it aside. I would still feel like there's still a little bit of competitiveness in you that you want to win the local, but you're putting the greater deed over that win.
Um, so I got like fourth place in carry on that local. I didn't win it, but I
Right.
wanted to go. I mean, I knew my performance was going to go down, but I wanted my efficiency to stay the same. I knew I was going to be slower, but I mean, I still can perform the fundamentals. I still can move and shoot just at a slower pace. I can still do all these other things, just a little bit differently. I wouldn't say it would be like just a worse shooting in general. It was just different shooting. I would just say it's a little bit slower.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
also, you had to kind of be real with yourself and realize, hey, I'm probably not going to win this local, but I'm
Right.
going to shoot the best I can one handed, you know? And you have to be able to know your own game and see, like, you have to be able to watch a video and say, okay, that was like my peak match performance, or hey, I could do those a lot better. And that's kind of dependent on the person or how well you know somebody else. You can kind of judge their performance.
Did you ever find yourself during that local going, man, if I just shot two hands, I could pick up the points and win this thing?
No, honestly, I was having fun with it. I was cutting up with the
Okay.
guys, joking, and it was just fun. Just try something new. They joke
Okay.
with me and they're like, okay, now you got to come and shoot a match, weekend only. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
That's where I draw the line. Now, here you are.
Definitely.
You've already changed mags. You got your first head shot at the head box. Um, and you are definitely moving. So here's the gas, because if I go back, there's no gas. You don't see any um, smoke, any combustion from the projectile. So it looks like somewhere in there you just fired at the no shoot, and you are moving.
Go back just a little bit more.
There's
So
there's the first shot right
that's the
there.
no shoot. Go back just a little bit more. That's the first shot.
Right.
So you
So
got,
there's coming up. There's your first
yeah,
shot right there.
head box and then
Okay, I
no
see. Yeah,
shoot.
you shot both from the stationary. So
Yep.
you shot the tucks on the move. Okay,
Yes.
that makes
Yep.
sense. Perfect
Mhm.
sense. There we
Yep.
go.
And I had recently been working on tux targets specifically because I had noticed was taking way too much time shooting them in local matches, and so I've been practicing on just shooting those more confidently and predictively when it comes to two hands. And also, I practiced shooting them weekend only too, and so I was confident a little bit in doing it. I just needed to know I had to see my dot and just have a good trigger press.
So you're just over confirming on the tucks. Is that what you found?
A little bit, yes, sir. I was
Okay.
really, really like I was splitting on like a 7 yard touch target. I was splitting at like a 3, when in reality it needs to be. I mean, out of 7 yards, the tux needs to be the same time as an open target because you shouldn't be throwing Charlies on an open
Right.
target at 7 yards. So you
Right. You
should
should be
just
able
stare
to
at the
hold the A
center and throw
box.
two. Exactly.
Okay.
And that only comes from seeing previous match footage and recognizing it, and then going and putting it into practice and actually confirming it in live fire.
Okay. And there's your predictive shooting.
Yes.
So you fired the one on the slasher, we've been calling it, while moving. Your left foot's almost completely off the ground, and then boom, you are running. Same thing as before. Guns up
Try to get
before
that gun
you.
up as soon as possible so you can catch that dot. Because I mean, I have difficulty sometimes finding the dot when it comes to a single hand shooting, and so if you can have the gun out in your vision sooner and finding the dot is always better.
Yes, I totally agree. Boom, there's your shot. I can see the smoke, and Now, I always love these kind of pictures. Like I shot a local match. I use aim cam glasses. So the camera
Okay.
is literally right here above my right eye. And I was concerned that I was following my dot to the target. So I was watching
Mhm.
my footage from a local, and sure enough, I could see my dot was here, but my vision was over here. So I'm like, okay, I'm cool. I'm not doing what I was afraid I was doing. Um, and
Mhm.
this is a perfect picture. Your head is already turned, looking towards the target hidden behind the wall, but your gun is still recoiling from the first target.
And I mean, that aids in just precision of where your gun lands on a transition. Because also, I
Right.
mean, you can be looking at the target, and I've noticed it in practices and also in locals that if I don't look at the very, very like center of the target, my shots will have like two shots right next to each other in the middle of the Charlie zone, and it's because that's where my eyes went instead of to the center of the
Mm.
target. And so you have to be very diligent on where your eyes go on the target and not just go to the shape of brown.
Now, have you done anything, any type of training in dry fire to train yourself to look at specific spots? Like for, and what I mean is, I don't mean like, oh, I want to aim at this, but for the different target types, and the example I'll
Mm-hmm.
use is a year ago, I shot Area 8 because it's like 2 hours up the road. And
Mm-hmm.
I ran across, that was when they used a bunch of IPSC targets and they were turning them funky directions. And I'm like, I don't know where in the world. I had to
It throws
walk
you up.
down. Yeah, I had to walk
Yep.
down and look at the target and go, okay, here's my aiming point. So have you done anything in dry fire so that regardless of target type, you know subconsciously exactly where you're aiming?
Yes. So all of my dry fire targets actually have little black dots on where I want my eyes to go to kind of aid in the visual process of moving from target to target, and also to kind of subconsciously know this is where your eyes go every time. Um, and then on like the no shoot and tux targets, I'll have the dot a little bit offset sometimes, and just practicing. But like you said, like if I'm in a local or a match and I'm like, where do I really need to aim on this target? I'll go down, I'll walk however far distance, and I'll stare at the target and kind of guesstimate where I need to aim to get the max of points, but also where I'm not going to get penalties.
Right. Yeah. Because that hurts as
Yeah.
bad as shooting a Delta or worse.
But like you mentioned, flipping a target. There was a stage last nationals where it was a short little shoot, and they had a target, a USPSA target, flipped all the way upside down, and I drug straight off one target onto that target. I shot at the shape of brown and had two Charlies almost touching in the Charlie zone. Where if you would have flipped the target right side up, they would have been in the dead center of the alpha. But because I wasn't
Oh,
visually understanding of where the alpha zone really was, they were too Charlie. And so I was like,
right.
I've been noticing all that a lot, and so I was really diligent in dry fire and live fire to fix that mistake, which I'm still
Okay.
working on. I'm not saying it's like 100% fixed, but everything's a process.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything you want to? I've got all my questions covered here. Is there anything more you wanted to add? Like maybe we talked about that you don't feel we hit on well, or anybody or anything you want to plug?
Um, don't believe so. Just shout out to, like you said, my wife and all my family of just being so supportive in the shooting, and all the friends, all the local guys. I was very fortunate to the local that I shoot have some really, really great competitors that I've kind of grown up in the shooting, watching them and implementing them, or like trying to emulate them and how they shoot fast, how they shoot precise, and stuff like that. So I've surrounded by a lot of great people, and of course, Lock Grips and Ruben's Reloading are my two sponsors now, and they've been really good.
Somebody needs to pick you up as a sponsored shooter because, uh, yeah, because yeah, That's
Heck
why.
yeah.
Well, and tell your wife I said thank you for letting me be on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, I will.
Brantley, it's been a great conversation. I hope to have you on again sometime.
Most definitely. I'd love to be back on.
Okay. I love all the information. That was a lot. So to be able to go through those videos and talk about it was awesome.
Good. That's something new that I'm starting to do. I'm starting to kind of, like, I've personally done match breakdown videos, but I want to kind of share how I break down my own videos in the future.
And I did notice that you do have your own YouTube channel. So I'll put that in the show notes too. So I'm going to go back. I just subscribed today. I'm going to go back and look at some of the stuff you've got. Very interesting.
Thank you. Be watching in the next couple of days. I'm going to drop a breakdown video of all of nationals.
Ooh, okay. I will. Well, you have a great day. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to having you on again.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. You as well.